Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name's Heather and today I'm going to film an updated video on life in Vancouver and how we made the journey of moving from Ireland over to Vancouver. I'm going to link it below, but when I was still living in Ireland, I had filmed a video all about the top 10 tips for getting yourself prepared and getting ready to apply for the IEC, the International Experience Canada visa. Today I thought I would kind of go through how some of them worked out and maybe how some of them didn't. The first thing I want to talk about is what we did in our first few days. So as I said in the previous video, we had booked a month of Airbnb. So for this reason we had a lot of time to kind of scope around different areas and see where we wanted to live. But there's a couple of things you need to do before you can get any of that underway. The first thing you need to do is get yourself a Canadian number. The biggest ones would probably be like Rogers or TELUS. Most of them are fairly similar. You will notice phone bills are a bit more expensive over here than back home for what you get. I guess because Canada is so big that data charges in particular are a lot higher, so you'll pay more for less gigabytes per month. What we did is the first thing is we went to the shopping centre and we went into Rogers just because we figured that was the biggest one and it kind of gave you the best coverage for all of Canada. We actually got a good deal for that because they have a sister company called Chatter, and when you sign up to that one, see, in order to get a bill pay you have to have, so I think it was whether it was like a bank account or you had to have your first month's paycheck or something like that. So anyway, what we did is we signed up to Chatter, which was the pay as you go, and I think it was $50 you had to pay for it, or $40 or something, and it was like 2 gigs of data, like very, very little data, but unlimited calls and texts. So we signed up to that for a month, and then after you'd been with them for a month, you were then eligible to transfer over to the main company, Rogers, for a discounted fee. So we ended up actually getting onto a 6 gigabyte plan for $50 a month, including unlimited texts and calls, and that plan is usually $80. By just starting off with Chatter for 1 month and then moving over to Rogers, it actually planned out a lot better, so I'd recommend that if you're looking for a phone plan to go with. The next thing you need to do is you need to get a SIN number, so that's like your equivalent of the PPS in Ireland. So it's basically just a social security number, and you just provide your visa with them, and I think probably your passport or some other form of identification, and you go to, it's a Service Canada is the name of the centres, and there's loads of them dotted all around. They tend to kind of work, working hours, though I think maybe 8 to 4 or 8 to 5, so you need to get in early as well because the queues can be quite big. So once you have that, then you can go and set up your bank account, but you can't get your bank account without having the SIN number first, so make sure you get that first. So yeah, then onto the bank accounts. Again, I think most of them are fairly similar. They're all kind of 6 in one, half dozen another. We went with Scotiabank. Do set up a credit card over here. It was kind of foreign to us at the start because we never used a credit card in Ireland, but it's all they use over here. People rarely use debit, and that's because the credit cards have really good bonus points associated with them or different sort of benefits. Like we have one that has like a lot of travel benefits, so every time you spend $1, say, you'll get 1 Scotia point, which then as you build it up equates to money off flights and money off car hires and all that sort of stuff. So it's a good one to get, but most of them will have some sort of form of like 2 or 3% cash back or movie points or loads of different stuff. So it's really good to do, and once you kind of get started you can build up a line of credit, and then you can increase your credit limit over time. But the main reason is that you need it is because a lot of things you can't buy with debit. I feel like credit card is much more widely accepted, so it's just handy to have one. And also for if you want to do any car rentals or anything like that, it's a good one to have. On to the job hunt. So for Freddie it was actually pretty handy because he was able to transfer over with his company from Ireland, so that was pretty nice. But I did have to look for a job over here. It didn't take me an insane amount of time, but I think I took the first thing I could, so I wasn't super picky. Basically, before I got any interviews for a job in my profession, pretty much the second week we got here, I just got a job in retail, which are really easy to get over here because they're desperate downtown for retail workers because the cost of rent is so high downtown, they can't get people that live close enough to work on a lower paying wage job. So you can pretty much walk into most retail stores, get a job for the next day and start working away. And a nice tip is if you work for one of the adventure kind of stores, you can get all your hiking gear and ski jackets and all this sort of stuff at a staff discount. So that's what we did, which worked out quite well. And then it took me about 6 weeks then after that to get a job that I was looking for within my profession. If you do have any questions, I'd love to answer them below, so just leave a comment and I'll definitely get back to you. It is expensive to live over here, but it's not crazy different from Ireland. I mean, rent is expensive, but rent is really expensive in Dublin as well. It just depends on where you're living and what you're looking for. The thing about looking for apartments, I would recommend Facebook Marketplace. That's where how we got our apartment. Craigslist is good, but I just find Facebook so much easier because you know the person has a profile, so you can kind of look them up and see if they're legitimate or if they might be a scam or whatever. And also you get responses a lot quicker because you have Facebook Messenger. The landlord also does like to see like a copy of your employment agreement. So often it kind of be a catch-22 because you need a job to get the money to get the apartment, but then in order to get the apartment, the landlord might want an employee letter or an employment letter. So yeah, but as I said, even having a job or just having any kind of job set up I think would be enough just to kind of show that you can pay for it, and to have a previous landlord reference from Ireland or wherever is also really good. So a couple of things to note about looking for a job over here. So the wages are depending on your field, of course, but I found the wages are comparable, if not maybe just $1,000 or $2,000 under what would be the average in Ireland. However, you do get a lot more benefits than you would in Ireland. So you get private health insurance. So over here, the health insurance is great with what's called the MSP, which is your kind of the equivalent of your HSE, only it covers a lot more. So it covers all your doctor's visits, any kind of outpatient surgery you'd need, anything like that. So as a resident of BC, you're entitled to get this MSP, but you also kind of have to get it. And I have heard of people that have applied maybe 6 months down the line and then they get back charged for the months that they weren't covered, which is kind of crazy. But I guess it's because they charge everyone a monthly fee, it's how they kind of fund the service. So if you're not paying for it, but I don't know, then again, you're not receiving it. So anyway, sign up for it. It's a good one to have, and like it can be extortionately expensive if you don't have it. Like just one visit to the doctor for like a sore throat could cost you $200, and that's before you even get any medication. Whereas once you have MSP, it's completely free, and it does have a monthly charge. I think it's around $30 to $40 a month, but that's due to becoming completely free in the next year. I think it's going to be completely taxpayer covered. You want to apply for that as well. Like you're only eligible after 3 months, but you can apply for it before you've been here that long. And I would recommend doing it because it can take quite a while to get processed. The other big shock, well, it's not a shock, I guess, when you're coming over, but the unpleasant vacation days, they're really short. So for the first year, there's actually no required minimum amount of days vacation that employer has to give you, so that you can literally have 0 days vacation. Now, I've never heard of that. Everyone gets a minimum of 10 days, and most companies will give 15 days. It's still hard, but they also do give personal days, which are kind of up in the air. You're not too sure what they actually mean, but generally they kind of pitch them as being a day that it's not because they do have sick days as well, so it's kind of an odd one. Like it's generally like, oh, I don't know, if your dog needed to go to the vet, or you weren't feeling well but you weren't sick enough to take a sick day, or it's just one of those kind of loosely termed times that you can get off. I took one like some appointment I needed, and it was at like 2 p.m. It wasn't a doctor's appointment or anything, but I just asked for half a personal day, and then that's fine, so you can go to it. My top tips as well for applying for the job is to there's the Irish and New in Vancouver Facebook page, which is a must join for anyone, any Irish person moving over, or even anyone. The group is like tens of thousands of people in it now at this stage, and there's multiple nationalities in it. But it's just a nice networking to kind of throw a post up and just be like, is anyone in my field? Do they have they worked anywhere previously, or do they know of any jobs coming up? That's how I actually got my first job over here, was through putting a post up on Facebook, and then was able to get in touch with a guy who was working in that company, and then he gave me the name of the HR representatives to get in touch with. Then I messaged them on LinkedIn, and then got to set up the interview through that. If you have any friends over here, to get them to spread the word. Like, everyone's like just looking out for everyone else as well, you know. It's kind of, there's so many people, so many cases that I've heard of getting jobs because their friend of a friend has mentioned to their manager that they know this person coming over, and that's all it takes, you know. So it's good, but bear in mind, some people have been waiting months and months to get jobs, so it can be tough, but just, I would recommend coming over with as much savings as you can. It's not a crazy expensive city to live in. It is doable. The other thing I'd like to talk about is driving. So the one thing that I was really concerned with was getting my driving record from Ireland, and I stupidly paid €15 to get that, when it actually turns out you could get it for free through the Freedom of Information Act, through the RSA. But in all actuality, you didn't even need it in the end at all. So when I went to the ICBC is the national kind of driver's agency over here, and they're also the one and only insurance company. So it's a government-run insurance company. But yeah, I went to go to get my license in ICBC, and all I needed was my Irish license, a Canadian or a BC address, and some other form of identification. They did ask me some questions though, some driver theory questions, and I'll say them at the end if you're interested in them. But they also did an eye exam and a couple other bits like that, but it was really easy. They just took your picture, and then they send out the card. They give you a temporary license, and then they send you out your actual license in about 2 weeks or so. But even when you have the temporary one, you can sign up to Evo, you can sign up to all the different car shares, which I think I'll actually go into in a separate video. I'll talk about all the different car sharing options that are in the city of Vancouver, and also what's it like renting cars. We've decided not to go for a car because we do live really close to all main transport and walking distance to all the restaurants and stuff like that. So we really haven't found the need to have a car yet, and it's expensive to pay for insurance. That's the one thing about over here. Insurance is like a minimum of $2,500–3,000. So just bear that in mind if you do want to drive. It's a big chunk of cash just for the insurance. But you know, could be worth it. I think it would be really nice to just have the freedom to up and go sometimes, but hey. The main thing I wanted to say is that planning is key, and I do love planning, and most people probably don't like planning as much as I do, but I felt like it really did pay off. We were really prepared, and we knew what was going to happen pretty much every step of the way. It all went really well. There was no major hiccups that I can remember now. I was really grateful that we did go for the direct flight in the end, because I've heard horror stories of people absolutely legging it through different kind of airports because they've had an hour to get through immigration in, I don't know, Calgary or wherever their layover was, and missing flights and just being completely stressed. So I was really glad that we didn't go with that option and that we just came in direct. And then as well, there's loads of people that like had slight issues with maybe what was on the visa itself. The expiry date was wrong, or there was some sort of restriction on it that they didn't need, or any sort of thing, and then it can make it harder to get it corrected, whereas here you can just pop down to the airport and they can fix it up. So that worked out well. The direct flights would definitely recommend. Yeah, so we've really enjoyed it so far. We're really enjoying being over here, and we're up a mountain most weekends. We've really loved ski season, which has been so much fun. It's the first time I've ever been on skis in my life, and it's a steep learning curve, but it's really enjoyable. And then as well, the hikes in summer with all the stunning views. So yeah, I can't recommend the city enough. You're going to have a great time if you move over here, and everyone just loves it. I feel like it's not that touristy of a city, but it's such a nice city to live in. Like, cycling around the seawall is just, it's like my happy place. That's the number one thing I would recommend. I hope you've enjoyed this video, And thanks so much for watching. And as I said, please leave any questions below. I'd be more than happy to answer them. Bye. So so for those driving theory questions, so there was 4 of them. So I'll just get them on my phone now. I thought I'd mention it because I didn't think at all that they'd be asking questions, and I was like, oh God, I haven't done my theory test in like 7 years. The first one was, now they could do them in any kind of order, but they just give you like a sheet and they just ask them. It's pretty casual. It's not like, if you don't get, they'll kind of coax the answer out of you if you can't remember. But the first one was, how long do you leave behind, or what distance do you leave behind when driving behind a motorbike? And I said 4 seconds, and they were like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, anywhere from 2 to 4 seconds, they'd accept an answer for that. What do you do behind a car with flashing lights? And I just said stop, and they were like, yeah, that's grand. And then what do you do at a green flashing light if the way is clear? Basically just like a flashing amber light back at home. So it basically just means proceed if the way is clear. 4th question was, what do you do behind a school bus with flashing amber lights? And I said to that one is stop and only proceed if the way is clear. So you stop first, assess it, and then proceed if the way is clear.